Welcome to Snoozecast, the podcast designed to help you fall asleep. Find us on snoozecast.com and follow us on Instagram @Snoozecast to find behind-the-scenes content. If you enjoy our show, please write a review on the Apple Podcasts app. Here's a recent review we loved. The subject line is incredibly effective, and it goes, I've tried a lot of sleep podcasts for my insomnia, and it's a hard balance to get right. Engaging enough, but also lulling enough. This is the one that works. On even my worst nights, I'm asleep in under 5 minutes. Thank you to our listener who wrote this review. We are so happy to help you fall asleep so easily. This episode is brought to you by Gates Made of Red Coral. Tonight, we'll read a Japanese tale adapted by Snoozecast called The Precious Fishing Hook, or The Happy Hunter and the Skillful Fisher. It was originally found in Japanese fairy tales, compiled by Yei Theodora Ozaki. If you enjoy this sleep story, be sure to check out our other ones that come from the same book. The Bamboo Cutter and the Moonchild is a two-parter that first aired in April of 2019. Momotaro also aired in April 2019. And the Fisher-Boy Urashima aired in May of 2020. Let's get cozy. Close your eyes. Relax your body into the softness of your bed. Now, take a few deep breaths. Long ago, Japan was governed by a man who was as handsome as the sun goddess he was descended from was beautiful. He was also strong and brave, and he was famous for being the greatest hunter in the land. Because of his matchless skill as a hunter, he was called the Happy Hunter of the Mountains. His elder brother was a skillful fisher, and as he far surpassed all rivals in fishing, he was named the Skillful Fisher of the Sea. The brothers thus led happy lives, thoroughly enjoying their respective occupations, and the days passed quickly and pleasantly while each pursued his own way, the one hunting and the other fishing. One day, the happy hunter came to his brother, the skillful fisher, and said, Well, my brother, I see you go to the sea every day with your fishing rod in your hand, and when you return, you come laden with fish. And as for me, it is my pleasure to take my bow and arrow and to hunt the wild animals up the mountains and down in the valleys. For a long time we have each followed our favorite occupation, so that now we must both be tired, you of your fishing, and I of my hunting. Would it not be wise for us to make a change? Will you try hunting in the mountains, and I will go and fish in the sea? The skillful fisher listened in silence to his brother, and for a moment was thoughtful, but at last he answered, Oh yes, why not? Your idea is not a bad one at all. Give me your bow and arrow, and I will set out at once for the mountains and hunt for game. So the matter was settled by this talk, and the two brothers each started out to try the other's occupation, little dreaming of all that would happen. It was unwise of them, for the happy hunter knew nothing of fishing, and the skillful fisher, who was not so happy, but actually bad-tempered, knew as much about hunting. The happy hunter took his brother's much-prized fishing hook and went down to the seashore and sat down on the rocks. He baited his hook and then threw it into the sea clumsily. He sat and gazed at the little float bobbing up and down in the water and longed for a good fish to come and be caught. Every time the buoy moved a little, he pulled up his rod, but there was never a fish at the end of it, only the hook and the bait. If he had known how to fish properly, he would have been able to catch plenty of fish, but although he was the greatest hunter in the land, he could not help being the most bungling fisher. The whole day passed in this way, while he sat on the rocks holding the fishing rod and waiting in vain for his luck to turn. At last, the day began to darken, and the evening came. Still, he had caught not a single fish. Drawing up his line for the last time before going home, he found that he had lost his hook without even knowing when he had dropped it. He knew that his brother would be angry at his having lost his hook, for, it being his only one, he valued it above all other things. The happy hunter now set to work to look among the rocks and on the sand for the lost hook, and while he was searching to and fro, his brother, the skillful fisher, arrived on the scene. He had failed to find any game while hunting that day, and looked cross. When he saw the happy hunter searching about on the shore, he knew that something must have gone wrong. So he said at once, "What are you doing, my brother?" The happy hunter went forward timidly and said, "Oh, my brother, I have lost your precious fishing hook." His brother stopped him and cried out fiercely, "Lost my hook? It's just what I expected. When you first proposed your plan of changing our occupations, I was against it, but you seemed to wish it so much that I gave in. I will not return you your bow and arrow till you have found my hook. Look to it that you find it and return it to me quickly." The happy hunter bore his brother's scornful scolding with humility and patience. He hunted everywhere for the hook most diligently, but it was nowhere to be found. He then went home, and in desperation broke his beloved sword into pieces and made 500 hooks out of it. He took these to his angry brother and offered them to him, asking his forgiveness and begging him to accept them in the place of the one he had lost for him. It was useless. His brother would not listen to him, much less grant his request. "Even if you make 1,000,000 hooks," said the skillful fisher, shaking his head, "they are of no use to me. I cannot forgive you unless you bring me back my own hook." Nothing would appease the skillful fisher, and now, with the excuse of the lost fishing hook, he planned how to usurp his place as ruler of Japan. The happy hunter knew all this full well, but he could say nothing, for being the younger, he owed his elder brother obedience. So he returned to the seashore and once more began to look for the missing hook. While he stood on the beach, an old man suddenly appeared carrying a stick in his hand. The happy hunter afterwards remembered that he did not see from whence the old man came, neither did he know how he was there. He happened to look up and saw the old man coming towards him. "You are the ruler of our land, sometimes called the happy hunter, are you not?" asked the old man. "What are you doing alone in such a place?" "Yes, I am he," answered the unhappy young man. "Unfortunately, while fishing I lost my brother's precious fishing hook. I am troubled, for my brother won't forgive me till I restore it to him. But who are you? I live nearby on this shore. I am sorry to hear what misfortune has befallen you, but if I tell you what I think, the hook is nowhere here. It is either at the bottom of the sea or in the body of some fish who has swallowed it. And for this reason, though you spend your whole life in looking for it here, you will never find it." "Then what can I do?" asked the distressed man. "You had better go down to Ringu and tell the Dragon King of the sea what your trouble is, and ask him to find the hook for you." "Your idea is a splendid one," said the happy hunter, "but I fear I cannot get the Sea King's realm, for I have always heard that it is situated at the bottom of the sea." "Ah, there will be no difficulty about your getting there," said the old man. "I can make something for you to ride on through the sea." "Thank you," said the happy hunter. "I shall be grateful to you if you will be so kind." The old man at once set to work, and soon made a basket and offered it to the happy hunter. He received it with joy, and taking it to the water, mounted it, and prepared to start. He bade goodbye to the kind old man who had helped him so much, and told him that he would certainly reward him as soon as he found his hook and could return to Japan. The old man pointed out the direction he must take, and told him how to reach the realm of Ringu, and watched him ride out to sea on the basket, which resembled a small boat. The happy hunter made all the haste he could, riding on the basket which had been given him by his friend. His strange boat seemed to go through the water of its own accord, and the distance was much shorter than he had expected, for in a few hours he caught sight of the gate and the roof of the Sea King's palace. It had numberless sloping roofs and gables, its huge getaways and its gray stone walls. He soon landed, and leaving his basket on the beach, he walked up to the large gateway. The pillars of the gate were made of beautiful red coral, and the gate itself was adorned with glittering gems of all kinds. Large katsura trees overshadowed it. Our hero had often heard of the wonders of the Sea King's palace beneath the sea, but all the stories he had ever heard fell short of the reality which he now saw for the first time. The happy hunter saw that the gate was fast closed, and also that there was no one about whom he could ask to open it for him. So he stopped to think what he should do. In the shade of the trees before the gate, he noticed a well full of fresh spring water. Surely someone would come out to draw water from the well sometime, he thought. Then he climbed into the tree overhanging the well and seated himself to rest on one of the branches and waited for what might happen. Ere long he saw the huge gate swing open, and two beautiful women came out. Now the happy hunter had always heard that Ringu was the realm of the Dragon King under the sea, and had naturally supposed that the place was inhabited by dragons and similar terrible creatures, so that when he saw these two princesses, whose beauty would be rare even in the world from which he had just come, he was exceedingly surprised, and wondered what it could mean. He said not a word, however, but silently gazed at them through the foliage of the trees, waiting to see what they would do. He saw that in their hand they carried golden buckets. Slowly and gracefully in their trailing garments they approached the well, standing in the shade of the katsura trees, and were about to draw water, all unknowing of the stranger who was watching them, for the happy hunter was quite hidden among the branches of the tree where he had posted himself. As the two ladies leaned over the side of the well to let down their golden buckets, which they did every day in the year, they saw reflected in the deep, still water the face of a handsome youth gazing at them from amidst the branches of the tree in whose shade they stood. Never before had they seen the face of mortal man. They were frightened and drew back quickly, with their golden buckets in their hands. Their curiosity, however, soon gave them courage, and they glanced timidly upwards to see the cause of the unusual reflection. And then they beheld the happy hunter sitting in the tree, looking down at them with surprise and admiration. They gazed at him face to face. When the emperor saw that he was discovered, he sprang down lightly from the tree and said, "I am a traveler, and as I was thirsty, I came to the well in the hopes of quenching my thirst, but I could find no bucket with which to draw the water. So I climbed into the tree, much vexed, and waited for someone to come. Just at that moment you noble ladies appeared. Therefore I pray you of your mercy, give me some water to drink, for I am a thirsty traveler in a strange land." His dignity and graciousness overruled their timidity, and letting down their golden buckets, drew up some water and poured it into a jeweled cup and offered it to the stranger. He received it from them with both hands, raising it to the height of his forehead in token of high respect and pleasure, and then drank the water quickly. When he had finished, he set the cup down on the edge of the well. "Will you not honor us by telling us who you are?" said the elder damsel. "Certainly," said the happy hunter. "I am the Japanese emperor, also known as the Happy Hunter." "Are you indeed the grandson of the sun goddess?" asked the damsel who had spoken first. "I am the eldest daughter of the Dragon King of the Sea, and my name is Princess Teotama." "And," said the younger maiden, who at last found her tongue, "I am her sister, the Princess Tamayori." "Are you indeed the daughters of the King of the Sea? I cannot tell you how glad I am to meet you," said the happy hunter. And without waiting for them to reply, he went on. "The other day, I went fishing with my brother's hook and dropped it. How, I am sure I can't tell, as my brother prizes his fishing hook above all his other possessions. As my brother prizes his fishing hook above all his other possessions, this is the greatest calamity that could have befallen me. Unless I find it again, I can never hope to win my brother's forgiveness. I have searched for it many, many times, but I cannot find it. While I was hunting for the hook, I met a wise old man, and he told me that the best thing I could do was come to Ringu and to the Dragon King of the Sea and ask him for help. I want to ask the dragon if he knows where the lost hook is. Will you be so kind as to take me to your father?" asked the happy hunter. Princess Teotama listened to this long story and then said, "Not only is it easy for you to see my father, but he will be much pleased to meet you. I am sure he will say that good fortune has befallen him, that so great and noble a man as you should come down to the bottom of the sea." And then turning to her younger sister, she said. Do you think so, Tamayori? Yes, indeed, answered the Princess Tamayori in her sweet voice. Condescended to enter, Emperor, said both the sisters, and bowing low, they led him through the gate. The younger princess ran ahead to the Sea King's palace first, and running quickly to her father's room, she told him of all that had happened to them at the gate. The Dragon King of the Sea was much surprised at the news, for it was but seldom, perhaps only once in several hundred years, that the Sea King's palace was visited by mortals. The Dragon Sea King at once clapped his hands and summoned all his courtiers and the servants of the palace and the chief fish of the sea together, and solemnly told them that the Emperor was coming to the palace, and that they must be ceremonious and polite in serving the august visitor. He then ordered them all to the entrance of the palace to welcome the happy hunter. The Dragon King then dressed himself in his robes of ceremony and went out to welcome him. In a few moments, the Princess Teotama and the happy hunter reached the entrance, and the Sea King and his wife bowed to the ground. The Sea King then bowed respectfully before him and said, I am the Dragon King of the sea, and this is my wife. I must apologize for all the trouble I am giving you by my unexpected visit, the happy hunter said, and he bowed again and thanked the Sea King. You need not thank me, said the dragon. It is I who must thank you for coming. Although the Sea Palace is a poor place, as you see, I shall be highly honored if you will make us a long visit. There was much gladness between the Sea King and the happy hunter, and they sat and talked for a long time. At last the Sea King clapped his hands, and then a huge retinue of fish appeared, all robed in ceremonial garments, and bearing in their fins various trays on which all kinds of sea delicacies were served. A great feast was now spread before the king and his royal guest. All the fishes in waiting were chosen from amongst the finest fish in the sea, so you can imagine what a wonderful array of sea creatures it was that waited upon the happy hunter that day. All in the palace tried to do their best to please him and to show him that he was a much honored guest. The time passed so pleasantly that the happy hunter seemed to forget his trouble and why he had come at all to the Sea King's realm, and he gave himself up to the enjoyment of this wonderful place, the land of fairy fishes. Perhaps your daughters have told you, King, said the hunter, that I have come here to try and recover my brother's fishing hook, which I lost while fishing the other day. May I ask you to be so kind as to inquire of all your subjects if any of them have seen a fishing hook lost in the sea? Certainly, said the obliging Sea King. I will immediately summon them all here and ask them. As soon as he had issued his command, the octopus, the cuttlefish, the bonito, the oxtail fish, the eel, the jellyfish, and the shrimp, and many other fishes of all kinds came in and sat down before their king, and arranged themselves in their fins in order. Then the Sea King said solemnly, Our visitor, who is sitting before you all, is the grandson of the Sun Goddess. While he was fishing the other day upon the shore of Japan, someone robbed him of his brother's fishing hook. He has come all this way down to the bottom of the sea to our kingdom because he thought that one of you fishes may have taken the hook from him in mischievous play. If any of you have done so, you must immediately return it." All the fishes were taken by surprise when they heard these words, and could say nothing for some time. They sat looking at each other and at the Dragon King. At last, the cuttlefish came forward and said, "I think the red sea bream must be the thief who has stolen the hook." "Where's your proof?" asked the king. "Since yesterday evening the sea bream has not been able to eat anything. For this reason, I think the hook may be in his throat. You had better send for him at once." All the fish agreed to this and said, "It is certainly strange that the sea bream is the only fish who has not obeyed your summons. Will you send for him and inquire into the matter?" "Yes," said the Sea King. "Send for him at once." Without waiting for the king's order, the cuttlefish had already started for the sea bream's dwelling. The sea bream sat there in pain, for his usually red face was pale. "Answer, O sea bream," cried the Sea King. "Why did you not come in answer to my summons today?" "I have been ill since yesterday," answered the sea bream. "This is why I could not come." "Don't say another word," cried out the dragon angrily. "Your illness is the punishment of the sun goddess." "It is only too true," said the sea bream. "The hook is still in my throat, and all my efforts to get it out have been useless. I had no intention of stealing the Emperor's hook. I heedlessly snapped at the bait which I saw in the water, and the hook came off and stuck in my throat. So I hope you will pardon me." The cuttlefish now came forward and said to the king, "What I said was right. You see, the hook still sticks in the sea bream's throat. I hope to be able to pull it out in the presence of the Emperor, and then we can return it to him safely." "Oh, please, make haste and pull it out," cried the sea bream. "I do so want to return the hook to the Emperor." "All right, sea bream," said his friend, the cuttlefish, and then opening the sea bream's mouth as wide as he could, and putting one of his feelers down the sea bream's throat, he quickly and easily plucked the hook out of the sufferer's large mouth. He then washed it and brought it to the king. The Dragon King took the hook from his subject, and then respectfully returned it to the happy hunter, who was overjoyed at getting back his hook, his face beaming with gratitude, and said that he owed the happy ending of his quest to the Sea King's wise authority and kindness. Now that the hook was found, the happy hunter had nothing to keep him in Ringu, and he was excited to get back to his own kingdom and to make peace with his brother, the Skillful Fisher. But the Sea King, who had learnt to love him and would fain have kept him as a son, begged him not to go so soon. Between the sea realm and the earth, there was no difference in the night of time, and the happy hunter found that 3 years went fleeting quickly by in this delightful land. Though the Sea King's kindness seemed rather to increase than to grow less with time, the happy hunter grew more and more homesick as the days passed, and he could not worry about what had happened to his home and his country and his brother while he had been away. So at last he went to the Sea King and said, "My stay with you here has been most happy, and I am grateful to you for all your kindness to me. But I govern Japan, and, delightful as this place is, I cannot absent myself forever from my country. I must also return the fishing hook to my brother and ask his forgiveness for having deprived him of it for so long. With your gracious permission, I will take my leave today." The dragon answered, "We are indeed sorry to part with you, Emperor, for we have enjoyed your stay with us very much. You have been a noble and honored guest. I trust the friendship thus begun between the land and the sea will last and grow stronger than it has ever been before." The Sea King and the 2 princesses and all the residents of the palace came out to say goodbye. And before the sound of the last farewell had died away, the happy hunter passed out from under the gateway, past the well of happy memories standing in the shade of the great trees on his way to the beach. Here he found, instead of the strange basket on which he had come to the realm of Ringu, a large crocodile waiting for him. Never had he seen such a huge creature. It measured 8 fathoms in length from the tip of its tail to the end of its long mouth. The Sea King had ordered this creature to carry the happy hunter back to Japan. Like the wonderful basket which the old man had made, it could travel faster than any steamboat, and in this strange way, riding on the back of a crocodile, the happy hunter returned to his own land. As soon as the crocodile landed him, the happy hunter hastened to tell the skillful fisher of his safe return. He then gave him back the fishing hook, which had been found in the mouth of the sea bream, and which had been the cause of so much trouble between them. He earnestly begged his brother's forgiveness, telling him all that had happened to him in the Sea King's palace, and what wonderful adventures had led to finding the hook. Now, the skillful fisher had used the lost hook as an excuse for driving his brother out of the country. But in the end, Happy Hunter said that he would forgive his brother if he would throw into the receding tide all his evil ways. The skillful fisher promised, and there was peace between the 2 brothers. From this time, he kept his word and became a good man and a kind brother. The happy hunter now ruled his kingdom without being disturbed by family strife, and there was peace in Japan for a long, long